Welcome again. We are discussing about the second question that normally haunt all of us, or rather, it haunted me at a particular point of time when I tried to read the Bhagavad Gita seriously. And that's like it. We have also discussed in the previous episode that's why this bisada, this dejection, this dilemma, this, I mean, something like mental breakdown came to Arjuna in the battlefield. Despite his knowledge, despite his awareness that he has to fight. Not only fight, he has to take a major role in the war. He knew everything. Might have been mentally prepared. But again, he was dejected because the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So this Visada, this grief, this sadness came to Arjuna. It is like this, I won't fight. I won't fight. So all are my relatives. All are my relatives. How could I kill them? And what will I get by killing them? Slaying the relations and enjoying the kingdom. Well, I don't want that. So everybody around, he saw almost all relations. Matulan, Bhratrun, Putran, Pautran. Somebody is uncle, somebody is a brother, somebody is a grandson, somebody is a friend, somebody, uh, father-in-law, somebody is a grandfather. So all are relations. Now the answer to this question, why this dejection came to Arjuna, might be like this. Well, this is our mental formation, but however, I will try to give a satisfying answer when I came to read Sri Aurobindo's The Essence on the Gita. These questions were amply answered there. And the answer to this question would be like this. Arjuna is not a common man, like you and I. When he is very close to the divine, he cannot be an ordinary man. He is a sublimated being. Decidedly, he is a sublimated being. He has come to a level where not everybody could reach. Being closer to the divine, because divine or the Lord, the God, Sri Krishna has accepted him as his friend. Well, we are all, in our inner being, we are all divine. We have come from that source in a way, because the soul, the Atma, is within us. And this, our Atma is a divine spark. It's part of the divine. And in the Bhagavad Gita also it is told in many ways. Atma is immortal. Because it is that part of the great immortal being, it cannot be slain. Nainang chindanti sastrani, nainang dahati pavaka, na chainang kledan chapo, na sasveti maruta. That's what the Bhagavad Gita says. We'll be dealing with this off and on when we'll try to discuss the relevant matters. Well, everybody of us has some divine spark within us. But again, with our karma, or due to our karma rather, we can sublimate ourselves. We can raise ourselves to some other level. And that was what Arjuna did. And that is why he was very close to Sri Krishna. But still, he is the forerunner, he is the harbinger, he is the representative of the entire humanity. Entire humanity. Yes. So the crisis he faced is very common. All of us, sometime or other, we face the same crisis. This moral crisis, ethical crisis, a psychological crisis, and this indecision. There are moments when we are indecisive what to do, and then this dejection. That is quite natural. And from a point of view, what he says that I don't want to kill all of them seems to be absolutely correct. Yes, if somebody, thinks that he is not going to kill others, in a way, it is a very good thing. Sometimes our shastras or our scriptures, they say, ahimsa paramo dharma. But from a greater perspective, this is not good. We have already discussed that to some extent. From a greater perspective, this is not good. And what is that greater perspective? That greater perspective is the show must go on, the civilization must run, this culture, this tradition, the great Bharata, it must be upheld. And by side, dharma must be upheld. Dharma. That must be upheld. And whoever comes as a barrier, he simply must be eliminated. Of course, when all the sources are exhausted, it is not that at the drop of a hat or at the slightest provocation, somebody will go and kill somebody. That is not like that. It is not like that. We all know how this story of Mahabharata ran. And when it was decided that there had been no alternative but war, almost all the sources, almost all the means and ways had been explored, and then only this thing was decided. Well, that apart, now this question. This, when Arjuna, the dejection came to him, it is because he is representative of the human being, and the same crisis as you and I face under this circumstance also came to him, and there is nothing unnatural in that. And the second answer is this: unless he asks this, because whenever a writer writes something, for something to happen, there must be some cause, as we call it, cause and effect relationship. Some cause must be there, and then some happening, some occurrence will be there. So there must be some cause. And what is that cause? The gospel of the Bhagavad Gita, the doctrine of the Bhagavad Gita, the great knowledge, this only came when Arjuna asked Sri Krishna. Otherwise, perhaps this type of knowledge we would have not got. So, in a dramatic manner, in a very dramatic manner, Arjuna spoke out of his dejection, and he just said, "No, I am not going to fight." Gandiva sansrate hastat charmacha parisuskate. So, all these things are happening, and these are the clear symptoms of nervousness, a nervous breakdown. He says, "My skin, I feel a burning sensation on my skin. And my weapon, the bow, Gandiva, it slips from my hands. And I feel um, a, formidable grief overtaking me." So all these things are there, clear symbols, clear signs of nervousness. So these things you and I experience. The same thing Arjuna also experienced. And then only the God came out with his gospel, as I said earlier, Goihad Goihyatamam, the most subtle knowledge, ever. And not only that, the knowledge came out, and he tried to justify the war, and thereby the participation of Arjuna. Side by side, he also tried to convince him, to show him the ways how to overcome this nervousness, this grief, this sadness, this unhappiness. Because sometimes, despite all the things, all the achievements, man becomes unhappy, aggrieved, very aggrieved, much aggrieved. But there are some ways. And the Gita also shows the ways. We'll be dealing with that when he says a man of established consciousness. Who could be the man of established consciousness? A man who could get happiness. Dukkhe svanudvigna manaha sukhesu vigata spruha vitaraga bhayakrodha sthita dhir muniruchyate. This Gita says that a person who remains calm in the midst of grief, and then if he gets happiness or he becomes suddenly happy, he need not be so elated, and then he must not be attached, he must be devoid of attachment, fear and anger. Then only he will be the happiest man in the world. He will be a man of established consciousness. Nothing will sadden him. Nothing will aggrieve him. So all these things are told in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is a representative of the entire humanity, and he has faced the same situation as in life you and I face. So the reactions or the dejection, whatever came to Arjuna, were very natural. And at that time, Sri Krishna tried to convince him. Not only tried to convince him, he also showed the ways how to overcome this. Because if unhappiness comes, we cannot go on brooding over unhappiness. We cannot go on being sad, for that matter. Because we have to move on, we have to surge ahead. Progress is the key. Unless we progress, nothing will happen. We cannot remain stagnant, in spite of our wish and desire also. If a man says, "I won't change," that is not possible. You have to change. Change must occur. By hook or crook, he has to change his stance. Because there is a saying in English that change is the only constant in life or in the world. Nothing remains stagnant. Nothing remains steady. Everything changes. The season changes. A child becomes an adolescent, then becomes a youth, then becomes old. So change is quite natural. The things which we understood some years back do not have the same meaning right now at this mature age. Those things have different meanings. So change is a must. So this, state of grief is not permanent. And so also was the case with Arjuna. So I think this answer to the second question is like this. So we'll be discussing about the third question in the next episode.